Right now in the Caribbean, an economic war is brewing. 3 nations, 1 crown, and the stakes, billions of dollars, regional dominance, and the future wealth of millions of people. But here's what makes this absolutely fascinating. The underdog is rising so fast that it's rewriting every economic prediction ever made about the region. The champion is watching its throne shake beneath its feet. And the dark horse, it just secured environmental approval that could change everything. The question isn't just who will win, it's who will survive what's coming. Because by 2030, one of these countries will be celebrated as the new king of the Caribbean, while the others will be left wondering what went wrong. I need you to hit that subscribe button right now because we're on a mission to reach 10,000 subscribers, and every single one of you watching this video gets us closer to that goal. Your support means everything, so subscribe, and let's build this community together. Let me paint you a picture of what's really happening right now. Guyana, a country that most people couldn't even find on a map 10 years ago, just recorded GDP growth of over 40% in 2024. 40%. To put that in perspective, that's the kind of explosive growth economists thought was impossible in the modern era. Meanwhile, Trinidad and Tobago, long considered the wealthy elder statesman of the Caribbean with over a century of oil wealth, is watching its production decline while trying desperately to reinvent itself. And then there's Jamaica, the giant with 3 million people, a tourism empire, and whispers of offshore oil reserves that could be worth $23 billion. But here's where this story gets absolutely wild. We're not talking about some distant, hypothetical future. The decisions being made right now, in 2025, are locking in outcomes that will define these nations for generations. And the clock is ticking louder than anyone wants to admit. Let's start with the phenomenon that has the entire financial world watching. Guyana. In 2015, this was one of the poorest countries in South America. People were leaving in droves. The economy was stagnant. Infrastructure was crumbling. Then ExxonMobil made a discovery that changed everything. Oil, not just a little oil. We're talking about one of the largest offshore oil discoveries of the 21st century. Since 2019, when production began, Guyana has been on a trajectory that defies logic. As of early 2024, the country was producing 645,000 barrels per day. But here's the kicker. That's just the beginning. ExxonMobil's latest projections show that Guyana's production capacity is heading toward 1.3 million barrels per day. To understand how insane that is, consider this. Guyana has fewer than 800,000 people. When you produce over 1 million barrels of oil per day for a population that's small, you're not just rich. You're stupidly, outrageously, almost unfairly wealthy on paper. The International Monetary Fund projected Guyana's GDP to hit nearly $26 billion in 2024. Remember, in 2015, it was just $4.3 billion. That's a 6-fold increase in less than a decade. Guyana is now the 3rd largest per capita oil producer in the entire world. Think about that. A tiny rainforest nation is producing more oil per person than Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, or the United Arab Emirates. But before we crown Guyana the winner, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, the resource curse. History is littered with countries that discovered oil and then promptly destroyed themselves with corruption, waste, and political chaos. Venezuela is right next door. A haunting reminder of what happens when oil wealth meets mismanagement. Nigeria squandered decades of oil revenue. Angola, Equatorial Guinea, the list goes on. So the billion-dollar question is this: can Guyana avoid the curse? The early signs are mixed, and that should terrify anyone paying attention. Yes, the government has established a sovereign wealth fund. Yes, they're talking about investing in infrastructure, education, and healthcare. But here's the uncomfortable truth. ExxonMobil and its partners made $10.4 billion in profit from Guyana in 2024 alone. Meanwhile, Despite GDP growth of 65% in 2022, poverty in Guyana remains high. The wealth isn't spreading as fast as the numbers suggest. There are reports of locals feeling left behind as foreign workers flood in for high-paying jobs. There are concerns about environmental destruction in one of the world's most pristine rainforests. And there are questions about whether the deal Guyana struck with ExxonMobil is even fair, with some experts arguing the country gave away too much in royalties and profit sharing. By 2030, Guyana faces a fork in the road. In one scenario, the government uses the next 5 years wisely. They invest billions into diversifying the economy, building manufacturing sectors, modernizing agriculture, creating a tech industry. They save aggressively in the sovereign wealth fund so that when oil production inevitably slows decades from now, there's a cushion. They crack down on corruption and ensure that ordinary Guyanese citizens see real improvements in their daily lives. In that scenario, Guyana enters 2030 as the undisputed king of the Caribbean. GDP per capita could rival developed nations. The country becomes a model for how to manage resource wealth responsibly. But there's another scenario. The spending gets out of control. Politicians, smelling money, start making promises they can't keep. Infrastructure projects get inflated with kickbacks. The sovereign wealth fund gets raided for short-term political gains. Corruption takes root. And when oil prices inevitably dip or production hits snags, the economy crashes. By 2030, in this darker timeline, Guyana is a cautionary tale, not a success story. Which path will they take? Nobody knows. But the decisions being made right now are writing that story. And honestly, the pressure is immense. Now let's turn to the old king, the one with everything to lose, Trinidad and Tobago. If Guyana is the flashy newcomer, Trinidad is the seasoned veteran who's seen it all. This country has been producing oil and gas for over a century. That's not a typo. A century. Oil was discovered in Trinidad in the late 1800s, and the country has been riding that wave ever since. For decades, Trinidad and Tobago was the envy of the Caribbean. High incomes, strong infrastructure, a skilled workforce, and a reputation for stability. The energy sector, particularly natural gas, built an industrial base that includes petrochemicals, liquefied natural gas, and downstream manufacturing. As of recent data, oil and gas account for about 40% of GDP and 80% of exports. Trinidad produces about 9 times more natural gas than crude oil, making it one of the largest natural gas producers in the Western Hemisphere. But here's the brutal reality. The glory days are fading. Oil production has been declining for years. Natural gas output is also dropping as reserves age and new discoveries fail to keep pace. In 2023, Trinidad and Tobago managed modest GDP growth of just 1.3%. For 2024, projections estimated 1.9%. That's not collapse, but it's not exactly thrilling either. Compare that to Guyana's 40%, and you can see why Trinidad is nervous. The country's GDP in 2023 was around $27 billion. For a population of just over 1.5 million people, that's still respectable. GDP per capita remains relatively high, but the trend line is worrying. Without significant new energy discoveries or successful diversification, Trinidad risks becoming a slowly declining economy living off past glory. So what's the plan? Diversification. That's the buzzword everyone in Trinidad is using. The idea is to leverage the country's existing strengths, its skilled workforce, its industrial infrastructure, its strategic location between North and South America, and build new industries, financial services, technology, logistics and shipping, manufacturing beyond petrochemicals, tourism, though that's always been a smaller part of Trinidad's economy compared to other Caribbean islands. The problem is, diversification is really hard. It requires visionary leadership, strategic investment, and time. and time is something Trinidad might not have in abundance. By 2030, if diversification efforts pay off, Trinidad could stabilize as a high-income, well-balanced economy. It won't have Guyana's explosive growth, but it could maintain its position as one of the wealthiest nations per capita in the region. Think of it as the Singapore strategy. Use your oil wealth while you have it to build other industries so you're not dependent on it. But if diversification fails, if political will falters, or if the global energy market shifts in ways Trinidad can't adapt to, then 2030 could look grim. GDP growth could stagnate or even shrink. Income levels could decline, and Trinidad and Tobago might find itself watching Guyana and possibly Jamaica race past it while it struggles to keep up. The veteran still has the skills and the experience, but the young challenger is faster, hungrier, and loaded with resources. It's a classic sports movie setup, except this is real life with real consequences for real people. And then there's Jamaica, the wild card, the country that everyone underestimates until it's too late. Jamaica is the most different of the three. It's not an oil producer, at least not yet. Its economy is built on tourism, services, remittances, bauxite mining, and a little agriculture. It's the largest of the three with a population of around 3 million people. That size is both an advantage and a disadvantage, as we'll see. Jamaica's economy has been growing, but slowly and steadily rather than explosively. Tourism is the big earner, and it's been recovering nicely post-pandemic. The services sector is expanding, with call centers and business process outsourcing becoming significant employers. But GDP per capita remains lower than Trinidad and well below what Guyana is heading toward. So why is Jamaica a contender for the 2030 crown? One word: oil. Potentially. For years, there have been rumors and hopes about offshore oil reserves near Jamaica. Exploration has been sporadic and inconclusive. But in 2024 and 2025, things got serious. A company called United Oil and Gas secured a license for the Walton Morin area, a massive 22,400 square kilometer zone off Jamaica's southern coast. That's an area roughly twice the size of Jamaica itself. Here's where it gets juicy. United Oil has been quoted suggesting that the largest repository within its exploration zones could potentially be worth $3.5 trillion over a 25-year production life at current oil prices. Now, to be clear, that's speculative. Oil hasn't been confirmed yet. They're still doing core sampling to detect oil residue and prove that what looks like oil really is oil. But the company compares the Walton Morin license to the Stabroek Block in Guyana, which is where all of Guyana's oil is coming from. If that comparison holds up, Jamaica could be sitting on a gold mine. In June 2025, United Oil received environmental approval from Jamaica's National Environment and Planning Agency to proceed with piston core sampling. This is a critical step. It means they're moving forward and results could come soon. If those results are positive, drilling could begin, and Jamaica could be producing oil by the late 20s or early 2030s. Now let's game this out. Scenario 1. Jamaica strikes oil and it's big. By 2030, production is ramping up. Government revenues soar. Foreign investment pours in. Jamaica's total GDP starts climbing rapidly. With 3 million people, even a moderate oil boom would push Jamaica's economy toward being the largest in the region by total size. But here's the catch. With 3 million people, GDP per capita won't shoot up as dramatically as Guyana's. The oil wealth gets divided among more people. So Jamaica could be number 1 in total economic size, but still trail behind Guyana and Trinidad in terms of how wealthy the average person is. Scenario 2. Jamaica strikes oil, but it's smaller than hoped. Production begins, but it's not a game changer. In that case, Jamaica benefits modestly. Tourism and services remain the backbone of the economy, and oil is just a nice bonus. Growth continues, steady but not spectacular. By 2030, Jamaica is still the largest economy by population and size, but it hasn't closed the wealth gap with Trinidad or Guyana. Scenario 3. No oil or the exploration fails. This is entirely possible. Offshore drilling is risky and expensive. Many promising sites turn out to be duds. If Jamaica doesn't find significant oil, then by 2030, it's basically where it is now. A solid, stable economy based on services and tourism, but not wealthy enough to compete with Guyana's oil riches or Trinidad's legacy wealth. But here's the twist that makes Jamaica dangerous in this race. Even without oil, Jamaica has potential that the other two don't. Its large population means a bigger domestic market. Its global brand, thanks to music, culture, and tourism, gives it soft power. Its location makes it a natural hub for trade and logistics. If the government invests smartly in education, technology, and infrastructure, Jamaica could build a diversified, resilient economy that doesn't need oil to thrive. Imagine a 2030 where Jamaica is the tech and creative hub of the Caribbean, where it's the logistics center connecting North and South America, where its tourism sector is more developed than ever, and its citizens are employed in high-value service industries. That's not a fantasy. It's achievable. And if it happens, Jamaica could win the crown not because it struck oil, but because it built something better. So let's bring this all together. By 2030, who takes the crown? The answer depends on how you define winning. If winning means highest GDP per capita, the wealthiest people on average, then Guyana is the favorite. The oil wealth is real, the population is small, and if they manage it even halfway decently, Guyanese citizens could be among the richest in the Western Hemisphere on a per-person basis. The risk is the resource curse. If corruption and mismanagement take hold, Guyana could squander its golden opportunity. If winning means the largest total economy, the biggest GDP number, then Jamaica has the edge, especially if oil pans out. 3 million people plus oil revenue equals a massive economy. Even without oil, Jamaica's size gives it scale that Guyana and Trinidad can't match. The question is whether Jamaica can convert size into prosperity. A big economy doesn't mean much if most people are struggling. If winning means stability, quality of life, and a well-balanced economy, then Trinidad and Tobago could surprise everyone. Yes, their oil is declining, but they have infrastructure, institutions, and experience. If they successfully diversify over the next 5 years, Trinidad could be the country where people actually want to live in 2030, even if it's not the flashiest or the largest. They could be the steady hand in a region of volatility. But let's be honest. Right now, all eyes are on Guyana. The momentum is undeniable. The numbers are staggering, and the potential is limitless. If you're betting on who takes the crown by 2030, Guyana is the favorite. But favorites don't always win. Sports history is full of upsets. Economic history is no different. Trinidad has the experience and the determination of a champion who's not ready to give up the throne. Jamaica has the heart of a fighter and a secret weapon that could change everything. And Guyana has the raw power and hunger of a young contender who believes this is their moment. The race is on. The clock is ticking. And by 2030, we'll know who was right. One thing is certain. The Caribbean will never be the same. The economic landscape is shifting beneath our feet, and these 3 nations are at the center of it all. The crown is up for grabs. Who will take it? Only time will tell. But I'll be watching. And if you want to watch with me, make sure you're subscribed, because this story is just getting started.